Hey guys, this is Super Matt, and I'm here today with Jamie Wilson from Farmers Insurance, and she's going to help us learn about insurance coverage, the do's and don'ts for first-time home buyers. So thanks, Jamie, for coming today.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
I appreciate you doing this. And, let's just get right down to it. Let's talk about what does home insurance cover, and then let's talk about what it doesn't cover, okay?
Okay, let's do that.
What's the most important thing?
The most important thing is going to be the shell, your actual dwelling itself. So one of the first lines that you're going to see on a quote that you get from just about anybody is going to say your dwelling.
Okay.
And what that defines is the actual home itself.
Uh-huh.
It's going to define what kind of flooring it has. It's going to define what kind of roof it has.
Okay.
If you've upgraded the countertops and those kinds of things, we're gonna do that in there. So if you've bought a house that's maybe been redone, we're gonna upgrade that because it falls back in the default.
Yeah, we see a lot of the homes now that they're all remodeling, and people all want the new gray color paint. They want new flooring. So what about a house that doesn't have flooring but it's painted concrete?
It's still going to be a solid surface flooring is how we're going to categorize that. It's still expensive to do.
Yeah, right.
It's super expensive to do. Most of the time when you have a house built, and I don't know if you want to talk about that right now and how we determine some of that value, but I can kind of stick that in there real quick and then we can talk about it in a little more detail later. Most of the houses, if you go buy a new home today, is going to have 50% carpeting in it. Yeah. It's cheap. Yeah. It's a lot cheaper to do. A year down the road, your goal is, hey, we're going to rip that out in a year and we're going to put some hardwood down.
Right.
But in the tax database and in the home value database, the way that the home was valued originally, still got the carpet in it.
Yeah.
So if your house floods or if there's a fire, you haven't allowed for that. So make sure that everything, all the detail is done correctly when you're talking about the main dwelling in the house. And that's kind of how that's determined. Your land does not come with a homeowner. So if you've got a house sitting on 6 acres or something, we're going to insure that land a little bit differently. But what you're really talking about is the dwelling.
Yeah.
And then people will say, and then separate structures is usually going to be your second line in there. And they say, well, Jamie, I don't have anything as a separate structure. Well, you do, because a separate structure is, it's also going to include gutters. It's going to include your fences.
No kidding.
Yes, and things like that.
I didn't know that.
So just because you don't have a big shed or a barn or a detached garage doesn't mean you really don't have a separate structure. So it's not going to lower your premium that much. Most of the time it's going to default to 10% of your dwelling. You can increase that, but don't take it back down. You really need that, and it's not that expensive.
Yeah, either you're going to pay for it now or pay for it later.
Yeah.
One way or the other,
One
right?
way or the other, you're going to do that. So the next slide item you're going to see is going to be your personal property. Now, when we talk about personal property, we talk about everything down to your socks and underwear. Heaven forbid, should there be a total loss, whether it's a fire, a tornado, whatever that catastrophe may be, and you lose everything, what's the dollar amount that I need to get you back to? Because my job is always to restore you to how you were before the event.
Yeah, so what happens though, you figured a dollar amount, right? When people buy a house, they're moving in, they've gone, okay, we've got all of this, here's what we have assessed as far as what our personal property cost. And 5 or 10 years down the road, there's a fire or something else, and it takes their personal property, but the money that they assessed then is probably going to be, the cost is going to be higher than it was 5 or 10 years ago, right?
Well, my tip is going to be, if you've got a good agent, they're going to get with you once a year and they're going to say, hey, Mr. Kern, did you guys acquire anything else this year? Because this is what I have your personal property. Does that still cover you? Maybe you had a baby and now you've got other furniture in the house and those kinds of things.
Right.
Anything that might have changed, you need to go over those things once a year and make sure that those amounts are updated. And that's your responsibility too. You can't just put it on. So when your agent sends you an email that says, hey, it's time for us to talk, it's not always just because we want additional premium. It's because I need to make sure that I've still got you covered, because I made a promise to you a year ago that said I would cover you.
Yes.
And if things have changed, we need to know that. One of the things I always tell my clients is that if I walk into the cabinet and I open it, I'm probably not going to remember what all was in it.
Yeah.
Make a video, upload it to a private YouTube account. just go around and do it.
Yeah.
Make an inventory list, however it is that you do it, because you're not going to remember.
No, you're not going to. Okay, so what about understanding our home values, right? And how you guys as insurance underwriters look at our home values. Because there's a price we paid for it. There's a price it's been appraised for.
Taxable rate. And then there's the reconstruction.
Yeah.
We in the insurance industry have the higher value on your home, hopefully, because that also includes debris removal. So if your house were destroyed, it's going to cost several $1,000s to remove the debris.
Yeah,
that's expensive.
It's very expensive.
So you've got to first remove the debris before you can begin to rebuild.
Okay.
So we're always going to be a little bit higher. I always teach that you've got the three values. You've got your sales value, you've got your tax value, and then you have your reconstruction value. That reconstruction value is also going to include permits to rebuild. We've got to get new permits. Those aren't cheap either.
No. Yep.
So that cost is rolled into that number. So
Right.
if you look at that and say, well, gosh, my tax appraisal is only $150,000. Why do you have me at $165,000? Because I've padded that so that you have enough money. Because again, my job is to make sure that I restore you to your full value as you were before the catastrophe.
Understood. Okay, great. All right. So speaking of catastrophe, what about, we're in an area that has hail. And when the hail comes through, I mean, we have some
The hail,
heavy
you
storms.
say.
I know, like what the hail, right?
Yeah.
But when we really have some bad storms, it really tears up some homes around here. Not only the roof, but the siding,
gutters and the
gutters, the fence, the windows, all that type of stuff gets, the cars, and everything like that. So talk about when y'all, when there is a claim started with farmers, what's y'all's procedure and how do y'all walk through that claim with the customer?
One of the things that I'm going to teach them, and before I get to the claims part, because people are quick to say, oh my gosh, we had a little bit of hail and I need to file a claim.
Yeah.
Don't just file a claim. Contact a trusted roofer or an inspector to let them come out and look at the property and see if you need to do that. Because 9 times out of 10, you really don't have as much damage as you may think you did on the initial. Now, if you're leaking and you can see things torn, that's a whole different
Right,
problem.
you can see daylight through
But just
your
because
roof.
you had a little bit of pea-sized hail in your neighborhood doesn't mean that you need or are going to get a new roof. Because then what happens if you do that, you now have a zero pay claim. So what it makes insurance carriers go is, they filed a claim, but did they fix it and was there really damage? And then we've got to go gather other documents before we can get you insured appropriately.
Understood.
So before you start filing a claim, just because it hailed, get a trusted roofer.
Right.
Do business with somebody local. Don't get the guys coming by putting their business card on your front door.
Or they come out in droves, don't
they do, because they are storm chasers. We will never be able to find them again.
Yeah.
Make sure you've got a trusted resource when you start that in a hailstorm, because they're all going to call you. They're going to tell you that they can waive your deductible, which is illegal in the state of Texas, by the way. So you don't want to do that. I don't really care how they work the number, but you don't want them to do business with somebody just because they said they'll waive your deductible.
Right. Yeah, understood. Okay. And what about flood insurance? Farmers, now FEMA provides flood insurance, but farmers is like a broker type.
We broker through it. Flood insurance is really written through one carrier. It all comes from the government.
Yeah.
We are approved to write it.
Okay.
I'm still going to gather your data and I'm going to take it to the government. I'm going to show them your elevation certificate and all of those things that qualify you for flood.
Right. And you went through a certified flood insurance rate program, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And flood's hard. I mean, there's a lot of data that has to go into that, and it takes me a little while to do it. I don't make any money on flood, so I'm basically doing that as a courtesy to my community, which I think we have to do.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of data that you've got to gather, and there's a lot of photos you have to do, and those kinds of things. When it comes into flood, it's not as easy as it may seem.
Right.
So it's really just
Nothing's
as a courtesy.
ever
but
a 5-minute deal.
No,
is
but
it?
you need it. If you're in a flood zone, you may be the 1 in 100.
Yeah. Or if you think you are in a flood zone, or you know, for whatever reason you get that hint like you could be moving into a flood area because there's creeks and things and rivers running around your property or your subdivision, you need to look into that and find out. And obviously they could contact you and you could help them discover whether or not they are or are not in that, and then whatever the process is from that point on, right? Right, okay. Also too is what we're doing today in this series and what Jamie's talking about as far as everything that's involved with homeowner insurance and first-time home buyers. We could talk for hours probably on all this, but if you guys have questions for Jamie, please comment in this video below, and we'll run all of Jamie's information on this video, and then she's always open to talking with anybody and helping anybody out. What's the easiest way to contact you?
At my office number, which is 940-498-7737.
Okay.
Or my cell number is 940-594-4635.
And you're a local girl here too,
Yes,
right?
I am.
And your office is local
My
too.
office is local. I'm in
Yeah.
Tarrant, landmarked by Angelina's Mexican Food Restaurant in
It's a good-
NCTC.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah, you can grab some lunch and then come see me.
Right. So if you needed to go over and take your kid to college, grab some Mexican food, and then come talk to
see
Jamie.
me. Or I can meet you at Angelina's.
I was fixing to say, bring Jamie something to eat and drink, right? You always need that if you're stuck there at the office.
Absolutely.
On that too. Well, thank you so much for being with us today on First Time Home Buyer Series. And if you guys have any questions about homeowners insurance, please call Jamie. This girl is a fountain of knowledge, and she wants to help people out, which is really cool. Yeah.
My job in my community.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Matt.